Disney, the biggest culture phenomenon and pioneer of animation called the Walt Disney Animation Studios. They have made 61 animated movies over the course of 80 plus years. I've been wanting to do a video about Disney films for a while, and I think it's time to talk about all of the Disney animated films. Great timing since the studio turned 100 years old. Well, it is going to be a review on all of them. It's not going to be a review style or separate video on each. Oh no, I'm going to do a ranked video on all of them. I know there's subscribers that have done videos of ranking Disney films, but I wanted to do my version of it. And hey, it's going to be a fun one. However, since there's 61 animated films, there's no way I'm going to include them all in one video. So what I'm going to do is to do ranking Disney films in each individual part. I will do 5 parts each, and that is a lot to do. For now, this is going to be part 1, ranking where it started all the way to 1967. So yeah, I'm excited to do this video, or videos, since I love Disney, and Disney has been around for everyone. So, without further ado, let's get started of my ranking Disney animated films. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, the first animated film ever made. For a first Disney film, it's quite impressive. Plus, you gotta know that this movie came out in 1937. For a movie that has an old-time feel, plus it started with the formula with the princess and even a fairy tale aspect. Anyways, my thoughts on the movie, it holds up. Yeah, well, it's not my favorite out of the Disney films. It's still a great movie, and even by the Walt Disney animated film standards. And while there are some criticisms of the movie, there's only minor in it. There are positives as well. And while Snow White is not the best Disney princess, she's nice and has a personality. Speaking of that, the dwarves are usually the standouts. Still, I think kids and adults would enjoy them with their own personality, their names, and even their expressions. The animation does look amazing, even back in the day. Adults have to enjoy the artistry, not just bright colors or pretty backgrounds, but even scary imagery. Oh yeah, the scenes would probably scare little kids during when Snow White entered the woods where it's scary, but then turns out it's just animals. Even the scenes where the queen turns into a witch, it's a cool transformation scene, and it'll probably scare you. So what makes this movie stand out? Well, the movie is mainly focused on emotion. Keyword, emotion. That's not the only movie that focuses on emotions. Movies like The Wizard of Oz and Where the Wild Things Are do filled on emotions importantly, and that's what Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs does. Still, the scene where Snow White fading after eating the apple and the dwarves crying at her because they think she died, those are pretty heavy moments, and I'm sure someone online must have reacted after watching it for the first time. I was 6 years old when I watched it, and I was invested, but I wasn't crying. Thankfully, I had the special edition VHS back then, not the one from 1994. And while the ending has questionable ones, it's still a happy ending. Bottom line, this movie definitely holds up after all these years. It's still a great movie, and I would recommend it for pretty much anyone at any age. I'm putting Snow White in the great category. I can't put it higher on my list, but still a great one nonetheless. Pinocchio. Okay, this movie is another great one. Heck, it's one of my childhoods. My brother had the VHS of it, and not only that, but he even liked Jiminy Cricket and went to Disneyland to meet Pinocchio. Yeah, I had to put the picture. So with this movie, I think it's definitely up there. After watching it again years ago, I think I like it a lot more than I did when I was a kid. There are a few nitpicks, but nothing major, and I could analyze in the movie, but I'm not going to. So let's get to the stuff that I like. Pinocchio is a likable character. He's like a puppet boy where he actually talks like an actual kid, and by the end, he turns into a real boy. And yeah, he can act badly, like almost turning into a donkey, or your nose will grow when you lie. Still, it's part of a lesson. Still, there are moments I love. The song, of course, When You Wish Upon a Star, is very iconic. The climax, which it was a cool scene. And of course, the dark aspect, which, yeah, the dark moments kind of went up more, even more than Snow White. I mean, it was creepy to see the guy running the place where the little boys are donkeys, and even when Lampwick transforms into a donkey. Mama! Still, Pinocchio is definitely another great Disney classic film. I like it a lot more now. So, to rank Pinocchio, I'm putting it above Snow White. But almost to the amazing category. Fantasia. Out of the classic Disney films, this is my favorite out of the bunch. Why? Because it's done with orchestrated music and no dialogue with animation segments. And while kids can watch it fine, adults are gonna watch this one. Yeah, there are some moments aimed at kids, like the Sorcerer's Apprentice segment where it has Mickey Mouse, but the movie is more of an emotional experience. Still, I want to say more about the movie, but it's too good to say about it. And while it's not my favorite, it's definitely up there. Definitely putting it in the amazing category. Dumbo. Kind of a downgrade to Fantasia, but it's not a bad thing. Dumbo is more of a typical kids film, but maybe more better than that. And while it's not groundbreaking than the first 3 films, Dumbo has gotten a lot of attention over the past 80 years. And while Dumbo the elephant is the focus, he's not. It's more on the circus and the animals and even the animation. Seriously, watch the pink elephant scene. It'll trip your mind off. And while the movie is outdated with the crows in the movie, it's still worth it to watch. Dumbo is a fun movie. I'm putting it in the good category because it's less groundbreaking, but still a charming movie, even by Disney standards. Bambi. This one is definitely a lot improved over Dumbo. Bambi is more of a coming-of-age story, where it focuses on a young deer, and yet grows up to be a mature deer. And this movie is a great way of showing life. They keep a minimum, like not having a villain show in the movie. Plus, even it has intense scenes in the movie. I was ashamed that I didn't watch it when I was a kid, but hey, at least I watched it years ago. Still, Bambi has heavy atmosphere and a heavy environment. I'm putting this in the great category, but only slightly after Pinocchio, because I can't place it over it. Again, it's just my opinion. Saludos Amigos. Okay, I don't think anyone would notice that this is part of the lineup, and this one is not as great as the other 5. The reason why is because at the time, World War II began, so Disney decided to make animated shorts, and this one started. Still, it's kind of forgettable. The animation is good, and it is cool to have culture in the movie. Other than that, it's not groundbreaking. I'm putting it in the mediocre category. The Three Caballeros. This one is slightly better than Saludos Amigos. It's longer and has more energy to it. And while it is entertaining, it doesn't feel like a full-length movie with the cartoon shorts on there. For what it is, it's okay and better than Saludos Amigos. Not much else, but okay. I'm putting it in the okay category. Make My Music. This one has the same aspects as Fantasia with musical segments, and they are good to listen to. That's my short review on it, and side note, I honestly wish this movie was on Disney+. This movie is going to be on the Disney 100 Films Blu-ray collection, so it would be nice to bring it out. For the ranking, I'll place it in the good category, but lower. Fun and fancy free. This one is odd. Yeah, you thought this movie was fun, no pun intended. Well, no. It was fine when I watched it. There's only 2 shorts and a live action segment. Yeah, how is it fun? Still, the movie doesn't have a big connection with all these scenes. So yeah, it's not special, but I will admit the opening music is catchy. I'm just gonna put it in the okay category, but below the Three Caballeros. Melody Time, which it's similar to Make My Music, but they could have squeezed everything in, but whatever. Some of the shorts are pretty good, but my favorite out of the bunch has to be the Johnny Appleseed. If you haven't seen this short, try to find it on YouTube or just find the scene in the movie. It would have been great if it had its own movie. Still, Melody Time has good shorts, good music, and heavy atmosphere. I'm putting it in the good category. The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad. We're down to the last animated film package, and probably the best one. This is what Fun and Fancy could have been. It has 2 segments, and they're actually pretty good. One is an adaptation of The Wind in the Willows, and the other is an adaptation of Sleepy Hollow. And yes, the best part of the movie is the Headless Horseman scene. I would have loved that scene as a kid. It's really cool. So yeah, it is the best package animated film out of them. And thankfully, it was a good idea to wrap it up in the 40s. I'm putting it in the good category, but I'm going to put it above Dumbo, just in case if I change my mind. Cinderella. Okay, Disney is back to the fairy tale aspect, and it was a good idea to bring it back. And for this, it's still pretty good and holds up. There are some downsides, like the prince, and there are some filler in the movie, which it could have improved more. But I still like the animation, the songs, and the characters. Well, actually, Lady Tremaine is a great villain, definitely in the top 10. Well, make it top 5. And Cinderella is one of my favorite Disney princesses. Still, this movie could have been in my childhood every time I see the scene where the fairy godmother changes Cinderella's gown. It's like, I could have watched it, but at least I watched it for the first time at age 10, so better late than never. Still, it definitely belongs in the Disney classic. As for my rankings, well, I have to put it above Snow White, but only because of the stuff I like. Maybe one day it will change. Alice in Wonderland. This one I didn't watch from my childhood, which I could have. Alice going through different places in Wonderland and coming across different characters. It would have been nice. Thankfully, 10 years ago, I watched it, and yeah, it's a pretty good adaptation of the movie. Every character in Wonderland are all crazy and madness. That's what the version got it right, unlike the Tim Burton remake. And while I haven't read the Alice books, I still think the Disney version is faithful to the source material. Is it good? Yes. Is it one of my favorites? No, there's other Disney films I like more than Alice in Wonderland. As far as rankings, I'm gonna put it in the great category, but only in the less section. But it definitely belongs there. Peter Pan. Like Dumbo, this movie is outdated because there's Indians in the movie. Yeah, are we gonna know about this? Besides the depictions, this movie was part of my childhood. I mean, the movie could be like every boy's dream. Aside from that, this movie is a fun one. Plus, the comedy is probably the best out of the classic Disney films, even more than Ichabod and Mr. Toad. It has adventures, fantasy, and all that stuff. Still, Peter Pan is a good old-fashioned fun Disney film. I'm ranking higher in the good category, but I feel like not putting in the great category would ruin, but still a really good movie. Lady and the Tramp. Another movie I didn't watch from my childhood, but again, I could have. Everybody knows the famous scene in the movie where both Lady and the Tramp eat spaghetti. Still, at least I watched it later on. I will admit, it's cute and interesting, but nothing spectacular. Much like Dumbo, it is less groundbreaking, but it's gotten attention in the past. It will keep your interest. You know what's gonna happen, but there's no surprises in it. You'll definitely like it. I'm putting it in the good category, below Dumbo. Sleeping Beauty. This movie is, how can I put this, kind of unbalanced. Now hear me out, I still think it's good, but not great or amazing. It still has the fairy tale aspect. There are some really good stuff in the movie. The artwork is a great different take, like a paintwork you see at a medieval castle. The fairies are great sidekicks, and Maleficent. Oh yeah, Maleficent is a fantastic villain. She's one of the best Disney villains. Top 3 easily. That's easily the best part of the movie when I had to watch it. The music is also great, and even the climax, that's still cool. now to some negatives, and please don't hate me on this. I don't like Princess Aurora and Prince Philip. They're kind of boring. Out of all the Disney princesses, Aurora is my least favorite. She does nothing, she has little to no character. I mean, she's pretty, I guess, but come on. Snow White and Cinderella are way more pretty than Aurora. Cut me a slack. So yeah, the main heroines are the biggest problem, and there are fillers in the movie, which you could have cut some parts out to get some of the best stuff. I mean, Sleeping Beauty belongs in the Disney Classics list. I don't want to get heavily criticized, so for that, I'm putting Sleeping Beauty in the good category, but I'm putting it above Lady and the Tramp just in case if I change my mind. 101 Dalmatians. This one was part of my childhood. However, after watching it for a long time, it's passable and cute. Yeah, a different change when I was a kid. There are standouts in the movie. Cruella de Vil, obviously. She's a lot of fun with the way she screams and being psychotic. So yeah, Cruella is another great Disney villain. The rest of the characters are fine. Roger and Nita are fine. The nanny's fine. Pungo, Pierdia, and the little Dalmatians are fine. Jasper and Horace are fine. Though I will admit, they do get a few good laughs. I will admit, the cat is the one I liked, where he tries not to give up and saves the Dalmatians. The climax is fun, but not as great as Sleeping Beauty. And I will give credit to the animation because the movie was using xerography. That's a neat thing. Still, I wish it had the charm like Lady and the Tramp did, but it has a little, but not a big one. I'm putting it in the okay category, a drastic change from my childhood up until now. The Sword and the Stone. Another movie I didn't watch as a kid. I mean, it's educational, which is fine. The characters in the animation are good, but that's about it. There are some good scenes in the movie, like the wizard duel fight with Merlin and Mad Madam Mim. Other than that, it's laid back, but kinda dull. Unlike Peanuts, where it is laid back, but anyone can be drawn to the characters of Peanuts, Sword in the Stone is okay as it is. I'm putting it lower than 101 Dalmatians. The Jungle Book. This film was the last one after Walt Disney passed away. Still, I had to count since it was in production when Walt was alive. For The Jungle Book, it does belong in the classic list. However, I find the movie passable. As of now, I haven't read the book based off by Rudyard Kipling, which I do want to read it to see if it follows the movie loosely. Anyways, let's get to the good stuff. Shere Khan is a pretty great villain. I wish people would put him in the top Disney villains because he's intimidating and I admire his sidekick Kaa as well. But yeah, the rest of the characters are okay. Mowgli, Baloo, Bagheera, etc. The songs are pretty catchy and the animation is actually fine, mainly because they use a pencil sketch that painted over that it feels like it's not finished to me. Still, The Jungle Book is a cute movie to watch. I'm placing it in the okay category, but I'm putting it above Sword in the Stone. So yeah, that is part 1 of the ranking Disney films. It was a long one, but I promise there will be more to go. Check in for part 2 for the animated films after Walt Disney's passing. Thankfully, the next one is short, with only 8. I'll see you guys next time when part 2 gets made.